introduce yourself. Ryan, we're ready to go live. We're going to start the meeting now.
Good evening, Good evening, 5:34. Let's stand for the flag salute, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item C, roll call. Commissioner Member Holloway,
Here.
Bauer,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Lopez, Abong, Rodriguez, Chair Buitron.
Present.
Chair, I would like to remind the audience that if they wish to address the Recreation and Parks Commission, they must submit a green request to speak form located at the podium. Agenda item D, public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak on any matter listed on the agenda may speak during this portion of the meeting and will be allotted 3 minutes. State law prohibits the commission from acting at this meeting on any matter raised during the public comment period. The chair may propose a further limit to the time available for all speakers at the discretion of the commission in order to accommodate as many speakers as possible. Members of the public who wish to speak on a matter that is listed on the agenda will be called upon to speak during the discussion of that item. I currently have 0 requests to speak forms from the audience members wishing to speak on items not listed on the agenda. Agenda item E, consent calendar.
Yeah, go ahead. Commissioners, if we can check the minutes. Once you do, if I can get a motion,
I motion to approve the minutes.
second?
I second.
Yeah. Oh, we're supposed to vote? What do we vote? What do we vote? Here?
No, right there. You should be able. There you go.
That is approved. Agenda item G, reports. Oh, sorry, F, action items. Agenda item F, action items.
Thank you, Cynthia. Good evening, commissioners. Christopher Jensen, Parks and Community Services Director. Tonight, we have for your consideration the approval of a request for a co-sponsored rate for the rental of the Merced Senior Community Center by the Chance Dobbins Senior Charity. The Chance Dobbins Senior Charity is an outside organization that serves the specific needs community, both youth and adults. One of the things that Chance Dobbins Senior Charity does is an activity called Club 67, which is an effort to bring a club-like experience or a monthly dance experience to Merced and abroad individuals with specific needs. A lot of times, especially for the young and older adults that are members of that community, have a difficult time taking part of the typical festivities such as clubs and bar social scenes due to their limitations. And so Chance Dobbins Charity works to provide that venue and user experience to both youth and adults. They are separate activities. The adult activities have different things affiliated with them than the youth activities. But primarily this is done here in Merced at the Merced Senior Community Center, and their request is for a co-sponsored rate. So what that means is, as a bona fide 501c3, they have the option to request basically a 50% discount for the use of the facility. It is our suggestion that you do consider this because of the payoff for our community and the residents that participate. However, I would want to caution you that co-sponsored rates wouldn't be recommended just carte blanche by our department for your consideration, simply because we do have facilities that we need to cover the cost of operating. And so if every nonprofit came to the commission and requested a co-sponsor rate, we would not be affordable. So we do want to advise your consideration with each application, but in this case, due to no other co-sponsored rates being committed at this point in time for the next fiscal year, we would support this application being approved for co-sponsorship. So what that means is, if you look at the two attached applications, one is for the Senior Center Standard rental application. And if you scroll down to the bottom of page 1, on the left-hand corner, it says office use only, and that's our fees. So contracted hours for the Merced Senior Community Center, an hourly rate based on how much or what portion of the community center you want to use, is $150 an hour. At 6 hours, that's $900 for their events. If you go to the bottom of that application, in that section, you'll see that for the total setup fee, cleaning fee, et cetera, it's a $1,691 fee to use the venue for their suggested activity. If you open up the co-sponsored application, you can see the difference. For 6 hours, the rental fee per hour would be $75 an hour, and giving us a total for all of their events of $695.50. So it's about a 50% discount on everything from the hourly fee to the setup fee and the cleaning fee. So again, it's our recommendation. We support this application due to the outcome that it has on our community, specifically the population that they're serving. There are, just to be fully transparent, there are people that attend this event that are not members of the Merced community. They might be visiting from Madera, Mariposa, Outwater, from other areas of our sphere of influence outside the city of Merced. But we feel that this is a very worthwhile service. I believe Commissioner Smith has attended one or two of these events in the past. I've been invited to attend every single one of them. I haven't made it out yet to any, but I do follow them. They publicize their events ahead of time. They do a great job of covering the events and publicizing how many people were there and what experiences users had on their social media pages. So they are pretty upfront with the outcomes of their services. And in our opinion, it meets the mission and vision of our department of making sure that we're expanding recreational opportunities to everyone in the community. So without any more description, I can answer any questions that the commission may have, or we would entertain a motion to authorize the co-sponsored rate.
Is this a free event?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, I don't know if you remember, but is this a reoccurring event? I feel like we approved this last year.
Yes, this is a reoccurring event. We have this application, I think this is the second full year that's being requested for the co-sponsored rate by this organization. I believe the year prior, they were asking on a case-by-case basis for their events because they were just getting their feet underneath them. But this would be the full year request for the second time.
Go ahead, sir, we have comment.
Okay. Ron Radney, advisor to Merced Senior Citizens, Inc. I just wanted to say that from a community standpoint, and Merced Senior Inc. standpoint, we support a sponsored rate for the Dobbins group. However, I would question reducing the janitorial rate because that is an actual rate, whereas the rental is not an actual cost. So I would suggest reducing the rental but keeping the janitorial rate as a flat amount. Thank you.
Can we do that?
It's up to the commission what you want to authorize. Our practice has been 50% across the board, including the deposit. So if you look at the deposit, instead of having a $150 deposit per event, we reduce it to $0. And the reason for that is there's a deposit that's already been made of $150 by the Chance Dobbins organization, which is half of the typical deposit of $300, but that just is held as almost like a retainer. So instead of refunding the deposit and then getting it back every month, we just hold it, which is why it says $0 here. We have the deposit from last year still on file. But yeah, from the deposit, the cleaning fee would be half, if I'm not mistaken, as well, from $366 to $183. There is no bounce house fee. Thank goodness we don't allow bounce houses in the senior center. Although that does sound kind of fun. And so it would be a total split of about or reduction of about 50%.
So then who would pick up the additional cost on the cleaning fee?
They're saying still charge them the full cleaning fee, but everything else half off.
Right, so the cleaning fee, part of the fee structure that's set up is based on what the cost is, not only to clean, but we also go and prepare the facility. So we have staff that go and make sure that it's set up the way that it's been requested to be set up for the number of people. We do have a cleaning company that we contract to come in and clean up after each event. And those cleanups determine, those cleanups have to be taken care of, and the setup has to be taken care of regardless whether or not the outside organization pays or not. So what that means is the department would eat the cost for what we typically charge for service hours and the cleaning fee. So we would cover the cost of that. We hire a contracted outside vendor to come in and clean. Their rate doesn't change based on our co-sponsorship, in other words.
Maybe I missed it. So what's the actual cost to you per event?
Well, in this case, it would be approximately $695 for the series of events that they want to host, because they would only pay half of what we would be charging. So our fees are usually to break even on our costs. They're not to go in the black per se. It's to hopefully not be in the red every event that we support. But if there's a co-sponsorship, then we do have some red that we eat for those. And that's why I made the opening statement that we would really discourage a carte blanche, approval of any application that came for us, because I could understand the floodwaters that this opens to any nonprofit that wants to do a community-oriented event. So we would ask that you use some discretion. I don't think that this would put out Chance Dobbins as an organization if we didn't reduce the cleaning fee. If that was the commission's request, staff would definitely move forward with that request. And everything except the cleaning fee would be reduced to 50%.
What about the setup fee?
The setup fee, you mean not reducing the setup fee? Same thing.
Same thing. So I would motion to approve half off of the contracted hours only.
So, Mr. Jensen, so on the regular rate is 366. Somebody rents it out. Do you pay a cleaning person or company 366 each time?
Yes, that is typically our rates are reflective of what our
The
contract
actual
is.
cost?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, if there, let's just use a hypothetical situation. If there was a 3-hour event and a 10-hour event, our cleaning fee that we charge is not based on the number of hours of the event. It's typically a flat fee. That's divided by how many events we project that we're going to rent out for the year. And we work with our vendor to determine what those fees would be for X number of events on average. So we get a reoccurring bill for the cleaning of the facility. If there's additional cleaning that needs to be done, say a significant spill of something crazy, glitter or oil, our staff typically help alleviate that difference. If it's above and beyond what the cleaning company is contracted to carry out, then our department supports that. I will say that I can appreciate both the public comment and the commission's motion, just for the fact that later tonight, I'll be reviewing again, if you recall last month's presentation on the budget situation. We are getting to a position where we can no longer completely subsidize everything that outside organizations want to do, because we just can't afford to do it. So we have to be mindful of what fees people pay and how much we're able to let go in the face of the reality that the money doesn't continue to get printed no matter how much we spent. We have a fixed income as a city. It's called the general fund. We're subsidized by that, and anything above that has to be recuperated in revenue. And so I definitely appreciate the sentiment of the commission with the motion on the floor.
Who sets up? Is it a contractor or your staff?
We set up. Sometimes there is, usually we set up, and set up is a little bit misleading. It might be breaking down from a prior event that, and then the renter might come in and provide the setup themselves. They may choose to do that. If that's the case, and I apologize because I didn't speak with this applicant in detail about this. We had another staff working on this application before you. I'm not sure if they said that they would set the facility up and that's why the fee was zero, as opposed to the $125, but I can follow up with that. If we are requesting, if the applicant is requesting that we provide the setup, we would move forward with commissions, if adopted, the motion that we move forward with the setup fee and not reduce or waive that. If the fee is projected to be zero on the co-sponsorship application because the vendor suggested that they would do all the setup and we do not do the setup, then we would honor that commitment by the vendor.
Okay. So on the floor is a motion by Commissioner Holloway to charge the regular rate for setup fee and cleaning fee. Is that correct?
Just half off. Yeah, only half off the rental fee
And
or the contracted hours.
and the deposit. Well, deposits.
Yeah, that's already taken
So
care of.
okay. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
So there's a motion, Commissioner Holloway, second by Commissioner Bauer. If we could all vote yes, no? Oh, is it set up? Okay. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Agenda item G, reports.
Good evening, Commissioners. I promise that was not a Freudian slip. Christopher Jensen, Parks and Community Services Director, again, just in a different seat. This evening, for the Director's Update, I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on where we're at with our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. So just for some background, every 5 to 10 years, cities typically will adopt a Parks, Rec, Open Space Master Plan. Similar to a general plan by a city's planning department, the PROS, or Parks, Rec, Open Space Master Plan, sets forth the vision, the standards, and the commitments or priorities for a city that it wants to take on over the next 10 years. As everybody's probably fully aware, a lot of times cities get pulled to do a lot of different things in parks, programs, and open spaces, and there's limited resources to carry those out. And so the PROS Plan initiative is a way for the city to identify what are the priorities that we want to focus on in the next 5 to 10 years accomplishing in the face of all the ever-growing needs and commitments that we're asked to make in that time. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of an update on our process so far. We acquired external funding in order to do this, so this cost the city's general fund $0. We were awarded a grant of $150,000 from the Central Valley Opportunity Fund, which is a local philanthropic organization, community-based organization that is funding nonprofits and government agencies for system change. So our pitch was to fund a Parks Master Plan that helps address some significant priorities that we see forecasted in the next 10 years. So again, a little bit about this initiative. It'll establish a long-term vision for the park development, guiding resource allocation, ensuring effective community engagement, and to foster a sense of place for our residents in Merced. It's spearheaded by 110% Inc. and KTUA Incorporated. These are our contractors that are on the hook for making sure we have an adopted Parks Master Plan in the next year. We kicked off this initiative by adopting a theme. We met with our staff, our funder, and some of our stakeholders to identify what do we want this Park Master Plan to really do. And so the tagline there, the theme of playing on purpose, really drove home what this initiative is all about. There's lots of people that can put a ball in somebody's hand and tell them to go play and shoot a hoop. That to us is not recreation. Recreation is providing programs and spaces that are intentionally meeting community needs so that the community can grow and establish a sense of pride and character for itself. So play on purpose is the theme that we adopted for this initiative. Some of the project initiatives or intentions behind this, February, the first task was to identify the theme, which we just covered, playing on purpose. We used our current logo as a community, which is the Merced Theater Tower, the Merced City stamp, and then Parks and Community Services as our tagline. We wanted to create and confirm the concept. We completed that in March. We looked at early collaterals, creating our project timeline, who was our PROS leadership team. So what internal stakeholders did we want to be a part of this? So it wasn't just Chris's pet project or Commissioner Witron's pet project that he asked for. We need more accountability. It was actually a community and a staff initiative. So we worked with our contractor to develop a marketing timeline to share with our external and internal partners, and then created a job description for what we identified as wisdom holders. Commissioner Smith and I were talking before the meeting. He said he felt slanted a little bit because he didn't get invited on some of our parks tours. So I want to clarify any misgivings about you all not being invited to our parks tours, and I'll give you a bit of history here in a little bit about what that was about. So what we did with our contractor was identified what ways can we hear from our community, so we kind of make sure that we're hearing from everybody possible within a year, within a short timeline. It's not just about listening, it's also about putting a plan together that has to be adopted by you all and council. So our goal was to get a universal perspective. So no matter who you are in the community, what do you think? And we identified just a simple survey to do that. So we created a survey asking about park questions, program questions. What park do you like to go to in Merced and why? What makes parks unsafe for you? Is there a particular program you've participated in through recreation? Those questions. So just no rhyme or reason to who answered the survey. Anybody could take it. And then we wanted to identify wisdom holders in the community. These are people that have plugs with certain groups of people. It could be an ethnic group. It could be a geographic location. It could be a service group that we aim to provide services to. And the goal there was to make sure that those stakeholders that are actively engaged in our parks and recreation programs had an explicit voice or a sense of leadership and representation. And what those wisdom holders were expected to do was host focus groups with their demographic group that they were representing, whether it was a location, an age, a level of ability. So those wisdom holders were engaged and trained on what their expectations would be in March. We started the community engagement in April by distributing the survey, and the survey again was that big picture. Hey, what are parks? What do they mean to you? What programs do you participate in? And then we have the wisdom holders host. We hosted a training workshop for our wisdom holders at that point once we recruited them all, and then we had a community park tour. And the community park tour was. We started in Bellevue Ranch at General Vang Pao Park that's under design, and we moseyed all through Merced, and we hit about 6 or 7 different parks that are at different ages and stages of development. So some of them were really old parks, some of them were really big parks, some of them had brand new playgrounds and lots of trees, others had really old, outdated playgrounds that were broke and had broken trees, etc. So we went to Vang Pao, Rahiley, Applegate Park, McNamara Park, and there might have been one other in South Merced before we went to the Regional Sports Complex, or CP42 is the project name. So we got a good kind of overview of all different types of parks in Merced. The next phase, which is what we're in now, is the ongoing community engagement. So the wisdom holders hosted their stakeholder groups. We had a community-wide survey that's been open for the last month. That'll actually be open for about 4 more months, so no pressure to hurry up and get those in, but we will talk about how to do that in a second. And then we worked with Project 110% and KTUA to meet with our staff, our city manager, 2 of our council representatives, and some of our public work staff who oversee our park maintenance, our facility maintenance, and learn a little bit about what it takes to run parks, community services, and recreation and open space in Merced. We had 5 pop-up engagements. It actually turned to, I think, 7. And pop-ups are just like, if you've ever been to the Mercado and you see the vendor booths that those are kind of like a pop-up. So our park planners and our staff identified 5 to 7 pop-ups that we wanted to target, and we completed those in the last 2 weeks. So already went over the work completed, but just a little bit more detail. We're not just meeting with community members and talking about what we're finding in parks when we visit. We're also looking at GIS maps. So these types of maps that you see up here, we'll visit a couple of them tonight that were really eye-opening for staff and our park planners. We're looking at trails, parks, and amenity inventory. So we've done, you ever heard of secret shoppers, where somebody goes into a store unannounced and they kind of survey how the customer service is, what products are, how they're maintained, what is their music playing, that kind of thing. So we had a secret shopper that visited our parks and our programs, and they went around and just kind of observed what they saw and took a lot of notes. So we don't know what parks they went to, what they saw, what was going on. I didn't say, hey, Joe, make sure you go to Applegate on the day of the week of the young child because we're going to have 1,000 kids running around having the best time of their life, and then 2 days later it's dead, right? So the secret shopper went to a bunch of our parks and programs going on in the community and just did kind of a SWOT analysis of what types of strengths, weaknesses, and observations they saw when they conducted that. And then a level of service analysis, that's basically how many people are in Merced, how many people do we serve, how much money do we generate in a revenue to cover our costs, those types of things. So some of the things that were found when they visited our parks, some parks were in fantastic condition. Some parks were in North Merced, Central Merced, South Merced, bike trails that seemed to be well maintained. And this is just a glimpse of different parks that they visited, so it's not all inclusive of what they saw, but we'll get a full report next month on what the outcome of their park secret shopper experience was. This was really interesting. So this is parks within a half-mile travel shed. A travel shed means you can get there within 10 to 15 minutes of walking. So if you see the green area, the light green, the dark green, number one, is city parks. The lavender or the light purple are city schools. And the outline, the big gray area that's outlined, is the city boundary. Linear park means like a bike path. So what this shows is that we have some major pockets in Merced that do not live within a 15-minute walk to a park. So if it's gray, that means that those people do not live within a 15-minute walk to a park. Bike paths were not counted in the travel shed. So, for example, everybody familiar with Bear Creek bike path? If you live on, let's say, Parsons and Bear Creek, North Parsons, that is, you probably can't get to a park within 10 minutes. You might be able to get to one within 15 minutes. You can get to Bear Creek, but the way you use a trail is very different than the way you use a open space in a park. You can do a lot more with open space. So this is looking at pockets of the community that may have limited access to our open spaces. This one here, again, pretty interesting. It's showing bike trails. So if we mirror this or layer this on top of the last map, where we see pockets of the community that have very limited access within a 10-minute to 15-minute walk to open space, and then you layer that with where the bike paths are, you can see that bike paths are really essential for ease of access. The places that have red solid lines in them get people to parks relatively quickly. The areas of Merced that don't have red solid lines in this map typically have a little bit harder time accessing the open spaces. So what's interesting is right now in the city of Merced, we have no formal class 1 bike paths, which are multi-use. So bikes, all wheels, walking, etc., south of Bear Creek. So that was a point of interest for me as the director for the department. Something that we need to probably be working on as an active transportation coordinated effort with our planning department to ensure that moving forward, communities south of Bear Creek have access to bike paths. Park acreage level of service. What this shows is that we're actually in pretty good shape when it comes to the number of acres per 1,000 residents in Merced. We are just over 3.58 acres of land per 1,000 people in Merced. The future identified park space, however, compared to the future projected growth in Merced, puts us significantly under the state average. It drops us down below 3 acres per 1,000. So on the chart on the left, the goal, let's start with that, my apologies. The goal for the state is 5 acres of land per 1,000 residents. Statistically speaking, the more acres per 1,000 residents you have, typically the healthier and wealthier your community. That's not a guesstimate, that's fact. In California, the more acres per 1,000 people you have, your community tends to be healthier and wealthier. We're pretty good compared to a lot of communities. We're just over 3.5 acres per 1,000 residents. That's a great statistic, given that the state goal is 5 acres. But if you look at what we're forecasted to be at by 2035 as far as population and the projected park development or allocation by that time, we have a significant shortfall, and we're under 3 acres per resident. So in other words, by 2035, we're gonna have so many new residents in Merced and so little dedicated park space that we're gonna be almost at half the state average or recommended allocation. So it's something we need to work on with our general plan, which coincidentally is under development right now. So it's a good time to be gathering this data. Our data collection efforts, you might recognize some back of heads there. A couple are in this room, so thank you to those that have agreed to go down this path with us. We gathered department budgets, we gathered city and partner agreements, meaning our school district agreements, our service agreements, our lease agreements with our providers. Every quarter you get a report as a commission from our youth service providers on what they're doing in our city facilities. Those are our provider agreements, okay? The goal was to understand the financial philosophy and trends that we're seeing as a city so we can provide a course correction if necessary through our PROS plan. A little bit about community engagement. So we activated our wisdom holders this last month. They all hosted at least one, if not multiple, focus groups with their identified demographics. So in the picture on the bottom, you see several of our wisdom holders. We had Jesse Ornalis, Director of Youth Leadership Institute, Kristen Sullivan from Merced County Public Health, Monica Gracely from Lifeline CDC, Treasure from Summit Church, Mr. Raspberry from the NAACP, Kim Garner from CVOF, who's our funder for this project, Marissa Lewis, I believe, from the Young Professionals Network. She's representing the real estate agents in the area, and then Ron and Terry Radney from Merced Senior Inc., who are very active at the Merced Senior Community Center, and they're representing the senior community on this effort. So we tried to cover a lot of our basis: youth-serving organizations, elder-serving organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, real estate, advocating agencies as well, and faith-based organizations. Sorry, the last thing there was the community events or pop-ups, and we provided several of those in the last month. So this is our survey. It's available right now in English, Spanish, and Hmong. If you click the corresponding QR code, it'll take you to that survey in that language. I want to thank Healthy House of Merced for lending us their translation services to make this possible. I can also follow up. Cynthia and I can send you out an email with the link itself, because I know I forget a lot of times that when I put it on my phone, I can't scan the QR code when it's on my phone. So we identified that early on and are working to make that adjustment for the community. The pop-ups that we had planned were softball, senior bingo, movies in the park, a bike ride with the mayor, and Lao New Year. And I think they hit the zoo. We had the wild horses day that Saturday, I believe, or Sunday, the 17th, and they attended that pop-up as well, or that event with the pop-up. Here's some images of the outcomes of our pop-up. So on the left, you see we were, instead of a park, we used the Art Carmanger Theater downtown, the Old Tower Theater. It's a beautiful facility, and I want to give a shout out to the Merced Theater Company for sponsoring our first movie in the park. We had a great turnout, couple hundred people that came, free popcorn. These events are totally free, by the way. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook for the next ones that are coming up at near a park, in a park near you. On the bottom of that image of the theater, you can see 3 sisters who were voting on what things they wanted to see in their parks. And that was really cool. The blue indicated, I believe, what the seniors voted they wanted to see in our park system. The green was what the youth and the parents or grandparents that attended the movie in the park wanted to see. And then we had the same chart the next day. In the middle there, you see Jacob Leone from KTUA, our contractor, who was at the bike ride with the mayor. We were asking our active transportation residents what they wanted to see, so their dots were yellow. And everybody got to vote what they wanted to see more of or better cared for in Merced. There was a little scatter plot going on, so it was really interesting to see what the elders in our community thought was important, what the youth and parents, and then the bike riders. The last engagement was Lao New Year. That's on the right there. If you have not gone to Lao New Year, you have to go. It is so fun. It's a great time. They locked down Merced downtown for a couple of blocks, and they have floats that go around with super soakers, and then the fire truck comes out and turns on their big cannon on the thing, and it's raining and everybody's dancing. It's a really neat experience. So highly encourage you to attend there. And there's some of our road dogs and Parks and Community Services that carried out a lot of the pop-ups and information on our department's behalf. So big shout out to our staff for the ongoing commitment to this effort to play on purpose. So that's the presentation on our Parks Master Planning efforts. If you're still awake, I'll take any questions you may have. I want to thank Ron for his advocacy to include images. I don't thank him for the extra work, but I think that it's probably a better glimpse for you all as to what we actually have going on with these efforts. So if you have any questions, I'll take those. If not, we can run into the next item on our report block. Or public comment.
This
The
question,
what?
do you have a question?
Yes, after this.
We have a comment.
I'm just glad to see there's a lot of community engagement happening. Love to see that.
Thank you. I will say, on that note, our park planners were shocked at how diverse our Wisdom Holder crew was. Those people that were at Applegate Park here on the bottom, and how well kind of rounded our community representation was. They were really impressed by that. So I appreciate that acknowledgement. Any other questions? Commissioner Smith, did I address your concern about not getting invited on the park tour?
They were treating me like a stepchild. You know, I call it being nosy, you know, I'm just kidding. You know what I would like to see? I would like to see some old games come back, like hopscotch, shoot some marbles, some jacks with the kids. The social media is killing, you know, our children, and fentanyl is killing. So I would like to see them really just get on that. You know how we used to do back in the day, Ron, and shoot some marbles, and, you know, do some hopscotch, and something different. You know, add something little simple, something simple for the kids. I don't think a lot of kids don't even know about jacks, you know, shooting marbles.
Maybe we can do a day where seniors host the kids and the seniors can show them what they used to do. Bring 2 different generations together.
gotta get them back to the basics.
Yeah.
It depends on who's jumping. I'll hold the rope.
Yeah, me too.
That's a great idea. Yeah, come on up, because we're live worldwide, with thousands and millions of viewers watching this right now.
Oh, yeah, no, my kids still do it with chalk. We play outside a lot.
Ron Radney again for Merced Senior Citizens, Inc. I was one of the wisdom holders, and we did hold a couple of focus groups. One of the focus groups we held was at the Cove Center for the Blind, and that was very interesting. One of the things they pointed out was there's no bus stops at the parks, and I thought that was really interesting. The other thing that, through my own research, through the California Department of Finance, they have projections on population for Merced County. And what's interesting on their population projections is by 2040, which is only 16 years from now, or 15 years from now, is that the number of seniors in our community, currently youth outnumber seniors, but by 2040, seniors will outpace youth by 1/3. So the number of seniors in Merced County will grow, and the number of youth will decline because of birth rates based on their projections. So one of the things just to keep in mind as we're thinking about park master plans and the future of the community is what type of population we'll be serving when we get into the future. So that was it. Just a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
None.
All right, thank you. Last month, we had a request from Commissioner Abong to give an update on Applegate Park and some of the work that's been carried out there over the last several years. So I wanted to give the group an update on that. The COVID-19 pandemic really showed us a couple of things. One, human beings don't do well in isolation. And two, that parks are amazing venues for social cohesion, bringing people together in open space that can provide a decent distance from one another and really give us the social interaction that we typically crave to thrive. Applegate Park is one of Merced's oldest parks, and it's one of Merced's only regional parks. A little bit about a regional park. Typically, regional parks serve outside visitors as much, if not more, than resident visitors. And the reason is because you usually have amenities that don't exist in other communities surrounding you. So, for example, Fresno, Roding Park, you have Chaffee Zoo, you have Storyland, you have ponds. Woodward Park, you have a giant disc golf course, you have several community walking paths and trails, and other amenities. In Merced, we have Applegate and Farrens. Farrens Park is a regional park. It's a little bit awkward because it's surrounding from R Street to 59. It's actually wrapping around a community development there, the Paseo Verde development. But it is an expansive stretch of parkland. It's connected in different areas by Black Rascal Creek Trail. Similar, Applegate Park spans Bear Creek from R Street to M Street. And if you look at the map here of Applegate, it's really master planned from west to east or left to right to be geared towards little young children to older adults on the M Street side. So on the left, we start with Merced Applegate Zoo. Then we have Kittyland. Then we have the playground. Then we have a skate park, a blacktop, a teal top. And then we have to the west, or excuse me, to the east, we have the Merced Open Air Theater, or MOAT. That's a reservable outdoor stage. Then we have the Scout Hut, the Veterans Flagpole next to M Street, the Rose Garden, Laura Fountain, and the gazebo. Stephen Stainer statue also in that area. So we go from zoos and mini theme parks and playgrounds to memorials on the east side. So it really has a wide range of audiences that we serve at Applegate Park. And it's an amazing asset for our community. So some of the things that we did to bring back the life at this park post-COVID was install new restrooms. There was restrooms at Applegate Park. When I became the director, we heard people would leave because of the activity that was going on in the restrooms. What we used to have in our public parks were single entry, multi-stall restroom design. So you would go in one of two doors, male or female, and within that one or two doors, you had several stalls that were available to be used. The issue with that is if I went into a door and somebody that may be in a private stall was doing some illegal or illicit activity that may be offensive to me, I didn't feel comfortable being in the same room as that person, even though they may have their same stall. Or someone may have been taking up more than one stall worth of space. They could have been living in there, they could be doing transactions in there that I don't want to be exposed to, et cetera. So we moved away from the one door multi-stall design and moved to single restroom, multi-restroom in a single building design. So 4 stalls that are unisex, anybody can use the restroom, and you have one toilet and one sink, and that's it in each of these restrooms. It's not perfect. We have still continued to experience vandalism, but I want to give a thanks to our Public Works team and our Merced Police Department who worked with us to develop a procedure to have these restrooms locked at night and opened up in the morning. One of the issues that we were having was people living in the restrooms to the point where they weren't usable during the day. When regular park goers would go to use a restroom, they would be used to house people. And so locking them at night, unlocking them in the morning that coincide with our park operating hours really alleviated that issue of lack of accessibility. The other thing we did with the restrooms is I don't have the picture of the second day this restroom was installed in this presentation, but part of the reason is because some of the verbs and adjectives that were on the walls were so offensive, I wouldn't share it at a public meeting. But they got obliterated with vandalism. Second day that they were installed, from floor to ceiling, there was offensive language tagged all over it. So we worked with the local Arts and Culture Commission to access some of their funding that City Council donated to them to do art projects, and we did wraps at our local parks and in around restrooms. I can tell you this image wanted art. So kudos to the Arts Commission for seeing our vision with these projects. We have them installed at Applegate. We have it installed at Gilbert Macias. We have it installed at McNamara, not on the new restroom, but on the old restroom. And all of them virtually have experienced zero vandalism. So I want to thank our Arts Commission and City Council for supporting us there. Another thing at Applegate Park, which is kind of unique, and we talked about this on our parks tour, which is the semi-solid surface material that you see here. So it almost looks like sand, but this is a rubberized kind of tire composite that's put in the ground, and it allows for people of all abilities to access all the areas of the playground. A lot of times, traditionally, we fill playgrounds with wood chips. For lack of a better term, it's FIBAR, but is the technical term, but it really limits people's ability to move around in these spaces with walkers, with wheelchairs, with crutches. And we live in a society today that is moving back towards multi-generational caregiving and home settings. And so a lot of times we may have older siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents that are taking children to the park on the parents' behalf, and they can't get around. And so the child, climbs to the other side of the playground, and they got to walk all the way around this big playground to try to keep their eyes on their kid. And not only that, but they can't interact with the child. So our goal is to start building our playgrounds to where it supports interactive engagement between the caregiver and the child that's using the playground. So the solid surface was actually resealed earlier this year. And that's really important because it helps reduce the amount of tear out that you get. So you'll see a lighter yellow on the merry-go-round material there. That lighter yellow is an area that had to be reapplied because as kids run around it, it starts chunking out if it's not sealed. And so we worked with our public works maintenance crew to determine what type of sealing material needed to be applied. They dedicated the resources to apply it, and we haven't had the merry-go-round out of order since. It's been a great use of our resources. So future projects that are in the works right now. Anybody recognize this? Want to take a guess of what this is?
That's right.
Kittyland train, to be exact. So this is the lighter area that you see that's kind of the shorter route. That's the old Kittyland train route. So it came really close to the skate park, and then it bowed back into the inside of the open space there and meandered through some trees. We really wanted to work with the Kiwanis under this initiative as a way to kind of highlight Applegate Park's different amenities. So we talked earlier about, the things you find on the west side, the zoo, the playground. A lot of people know about that, but not a lot of people know about the Scout Hut or the moat or the Rose Garden and those things. So what you'll see is an expanded train route. It goes all the way up to in front of the moat now. So you could, eventually stop, pick people up at the moat, and then take them back to Kittyland, or vice versa. Take people from Kittyland, drop them off at the secondary parking lot or auxiliary parking lot over there behind City Purchasing and the skate park. So we really like this layout. I want to give a big kudos to Karen Adams and Jim Ekman and Purple and several others on the board of the Kiwanis because they've worked with city staff. The city is a monster of an agency. We have so many different divisions and departments and contacts. They've done a really good job of making sure that the plan was amicable with all of us. We're really excited to see this complete. We did sacrifice a little bit of our park space and added to Kittyland's footprint. And the goal with that was to make sure that the inside of Kittyland was more ADA compliant. They had issues with getting kids in wheelchairs on the train because of the space requirements. And I am happy to say that we've alleviated that with the additional space that we've granted them. And to accommodate that request for more space, they actually agreed to install a new sidewalk for the city. So now from Kittyland, you can actually get up to the new restrooms that we just looked at without having to just walk on grass. You will have an ADA accessible path from Kittyland to the public restrooms and from the park and public restrooms to Kittyland. This is ours. This is the next big lift for us outside of the regional sports complex. So when I came here several years ago, and still to this day, the zoo was a very contentious topic. We spend a lot of money on Merced Applegate Zoo, and Merced Applegate Zoo is a big part of Merced's history. Just about everybody that grew up in elementary school here grew up visiting the monkeys, the bears. You might even remember the mountain lion that we had, Mac, who passed away several years ago. And so former city manager Stephanie Dietz, credit to her, saw a need to invest in this facility. She worked with our team and the engineer at the time to allocate a budget for a renovation effort here. So we have $1.8 million that's been obligated to renovate Merced Applegate Zoo. We started by rebranding the facility. And Commissioner Witron, I know he was not in agreement with this logo, so I appreciate his feedback because he shared that, in his experience, Applegate Zoo, like it or not, had always been referred to as the Park of the Monkeys, because we had a bunch of monkeys at Applegate Zoo. And what we found in talking to staff and visitors right now, because since that time, we've ended up with only 2 primates. We have 2 from that original group or troop that we had at Applegate. What we heard is that folks really wanted to go down this path of being the gateway to Yosemite. So we identified, well, what animals live between the Central Valley and Yosemite? So we identified that as kind of our regional footprint. We wanted to highlight animals that needed to be rescued from the wetlands and the valley of Central California all the way up to the Sierras. So we started thinning out our chickens. We started looking at how do we bring in animals that are more regional in our focus here. And with that came about this new logo that you see on the right, where we have a bear, the Sierras in the background, a bird of prey, and then a buck in the meadow there. So this was adopted by City Council a couple years ago. The tagline is where every animal has a story. A lot of people don't know that, contrary to Chaffee and Oakland Zoo and San Diego, we're not an entertainment venue. We're a rescue site. So the animals that we house at Merced Applegate Zoo can never be rehabilitated and re-released into the wild for a variety of reasons. So we're their forever home unless for some reason we can't care for them anymore and we try to find another location. We use that housing situation to try to educate our visitors on those animals. And really what we're moving to is talking about conservation and preservation of natural resources in our next iteration of Merced Applegate Zoo. So really talking about the supplies that you use to eat, shop, drink, drive, etc., and how those things impact our natural resources like the animals you may be visiting today. So what you see here is actually a live rendering of what we're working on putting at the zoo for the bears. We're super excited about this renovation. We are about 30% through design right now. We're learning that we have a lot to learn. Designing a zoo, we haven't done it in the city of Merced, so we're working with Chaffee a lot. Big thanks to Chaffee Zoological staff for allowing us to go there, get behind the scenes tour and training on some of the efforts that they've taken on over there. So the zoo is still on the timeline of starting this fall with construction and being open in spring of next year, 2026. Any questions on the updates? The only other thing that I didn't put a slide on that we should probably note, shout out to Merced Police Department and their staff. We have cameras on the playground. We have cameras at Kittyland. We have cameras at our rentable facility, Rosati, and we have cameras in front of the zoo. And we had a theft of that beautiful bear sign that we had installed on the front of the zoo about 2 months ago now, right? About 3 weeks after it was installed, it got stolen. And we had some very generous community members contact me and offer to help replace the sign. So the sign is being replaced as we speak. It will be installed later this week, if not sooner. So really, really thankful for those community members and their selfless act of service.
I do have a question. The
Yes, sir.
question is, I'm a long life resident of Merced, and I used to go to Applegate Park every Sunday after church. But now since our community is growing, there's no parking at Applegate Park. I had a friend that got ran over. So when we do have a function there, there's really no parking. You know, it's only like 3 little parking lots.
Right.
And I was sitting here thinking that building by the skating park, do we really need that building, or can we get that building and put a parking lot right there where the people can come? Because you got to cross the street back and forth, and it's very dangerous. And as far as the bathroom is concerned, I think that we need to get some volunteers in the community that don't mind senior citizens or somebody, we don't have to pay them. They can be with a vest on, and they can be in the park, monitor the restrooms, be there, kind of see what's going on, have contact with the police officers.
Yeah.
So make some of the people a part of the community, knowing that they can be there and they're doing something good. But it's really, when I sit back there, we got to get some parking somewhere designed so you can't park at a park.
Yeah.
It's kind of, we got to figure out something. So, because I just took my son over there, man, we ain't got no parking. I was thinking about where the zoo is at. Maybe we can go up in there and you can get out and go in the zoo. They only have one handicap spot over there next to the zoo. And maybe one in the back. Anyway, just my suggestion.
It's a great point, very well said and articulated. I couldn't agree more. We are actively working with the city
Yeah.
manager, our engineering department. You know, sometimes you get stuck between wanting to have a plan, but no funding to create the plan. Because plans have to be engineered. They have to have very specific, I was telling somebody today, designing a park project is like having a Lego set. If you don't have instructions, you can come up with whatever, right? But we have to provide directions that are really detailed, so when we go out to build something, the contractors that win that bid, they know exactly what the expectation is. So we hear you loud and clear. I think it's very ironic that we have a regional park that I just educated the commission and community on, serving even the greater Merced area, right? Not just our community. And to your point, there's no parking. There's no bus stop that Ron shared about. So these are things we need to address. One of the things that we're working on in kind of a matrix, and no decision's been made, so forgive me if this doesn't happen down the road, but it's looking at where we have funding opportunities that could help pay to carry out the work that needs to be done. So if we look at downtown, for example, the decision to go with a one-way design for downtown and kind of a circle, 18th and Main Street being one-ways. The nice thing with a one-way design is you actually can take parallel or perpendicular parking and make it diagonal. And with that, you add about 18% parking volume. If one of the issues that we hear about all the time, especially mothers with young children trying to get out of their car on 25th Street and the curb is 18 inches deep and their car door is banging the door and the kids are getting out in the street side because the curb's too deep. And so what we've talked about is addressing the curb height. That's one problem. Addressing parking volume, another problem. The other thing that wasn't brought up that's a real issue is ADA access. Not just handicap stalls, but sidewalks. From P Street all the way to R Street, there's not a single sidewalk in the park. And so if we can utilize some funding to install sidewalks, like we're doing on Childs, right? New sidewalk going in over there. It's called a CMAC project. To add a sidewalk, we can actually pull that curb into the park a little bit and decrease the curb height by elongating the street, widening the street. So then we pull traffic off of 25th Street into the park a little bit. We add parking space. We take kids out of the street when they're getting out of the car and put them into parking stalls that are going diagonal from P Street all the way down. And we add a nice big walking path all the way across the park that could take you all the way up to Kittyland and all the way across to the Rosati Education Building, which is addresses another issue that we have at Applegate, which is trying to access the Rosati, you have to drive on Bear Creek. That's an active bike path and walking path. So that plan eliminates a lot of those issues. It provides a lot of solutions to the current circumstance. And so that's something that we'll be pushing forward with the engineers on.
My other question is that building right there by the skating park, can we move? I don't know what it is or what they
It's
use it
that
for.
the city purchasing department.
It'd be nice to be a parking lot right
Yeah, it ironically, that used to be the Park and Rec department. Parks and Recreation used to be in that building. Back in the day. Right now, it's the city purchasing department, so it's almost like a warehouse that houses all the materials that are either being sold by the city or acquired by the city, and different departments can access them. So all kinds of materials and supplies. I won't speak for the city overall, but I agree, it's a good location for expanded parking. And I would say that we probably need to do a better job of just advertising the parking on that side, because if you go just east of that building, the parking lots that are right there off of 25th all the way to where the old Bell used to be behind the skate park, nobody really uses those until there's really no other parking, right? But that's available public parking for the area. But great ideas.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I wanna talk about the traffic. There's a lot of traffic and it's
so, I take my son to the park,
Mhm.
but there's no parking, so I walk. So we cross the train track, and I think it's Q Street, we gotta be careful, cause there's a lot of traffic, and so there's no crosswalk. There's no crosswalk, and there's no, those, flashing stop signs,
Mm-hmm,
so we gotta be extra careful, cause those cars don't really stop.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So maybe installing more crosswalks and more of those stop signs.
Okay.
I got another question. You know what you just did? It'd be nice to have a temporary blinking light or something.
Yeah.
They let people know when they come through there, or some speed bumps.
Mm.
That's what it might help a little.
Almost
bit.
like a school crossing zone?
Yeah, 'cause they come through there speeding, so
Okay,
I agree with you.
good points. Well, we don't control traffic, but we can certainly advocate on behalf of the commission to our traffic committee. We do have a traffic committee, and we could bring this up to the committee's attention and ask for their consideration of those priorities.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great points. All right, if there's no further questions, thank you very much for your time, commission, and I'll turn it back over to Cynthia.
Okay, agenda item H, business.
I would like to request an item for future agenda. If we can have what's upcoming in the next month. We used to get an email and it gave us flyers of what's happening. I realized I took a break from social media for 2 months and I didn't know what was going on in Merced. I had no idea what was going on in Merced. I didn't know that the movie in the parks was back and just little things like that. And as a commissioner, I feel like I shouldn't have to check my social media to figure out what's happening around Merced. So if we can bring back that email, or if every month when we meet, you give us an agenda of what's up for the next month, I'd appreciate that. You made me get back on social media because I had to see what's going on. And then an update on how McNamara Pool is doing after, because are they opening soon? Yeah, how it's I don't want to say sales, but how many people are attending the pool?
Yeah, we'll do, I think Juneteenth celebration is our first official day open at the pool. I think we're gonna, not on Juneteenth itself, I believe it's gonna be that Friday. I'll have to confirm that later, and I'll send a follow-up email to the commission. And then we have 2 sessions of aquatics that are available for registration still, and we have slots open. I think the ones that are most full are after 5, between 5 and 6:30, if I'm not mistaken. But the daytime slots have plenty of space if people want to register. Swim lessons are available from Mommy and Me or Parent and Me programs, which is kind of tiny tots, all the way up to, is it 13? 13 years old? And then we have Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays that will be dedicated to rec swim. So we'll bring up a report the end of June. You're welcome.
Can I get the information for the swimming classes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I see a thing about swimming. They're teaching kids how to swim with their clothes on. Because most likely a kid will fall in the water with their clothes on. I seen a program and I thought that was a good idea. Because most kids might get pushed in the water with their clothes on and not in a swimsuit. And I thought, that's a good
They do that
program.
at Merced College. They tell you to bring your kids in clothes they can get wet in,
Yeah,
and they practice with you.
pretty awesome.
Any further agenda requests? No? Good. Any commission comments? Commissioner comments?
Yeah, like I said, I took my son to the Applequake Park last week. He really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I talked about the ground, the rubbery ground. It's really great for my feet. I love it. So yeah, really like that park.
Cool.
None? Seeing none, we adjourn at 6:48 PM. See you next month.